Our scripture for this evening comes from Nehemiah chapter 2 and verse number 17. Nehemiah chapter 2, verse 17. If you recall, on this past Monday, we looked at Nehemiah chapter 2, verses 11 through verse number 13. We talked from the idea of the importance of planning. It is always good to have a plan. One of the questions that people often ask themselves and sometimes ask others, why aren't things changing in my life? Why does one year end? I look forward to all of the hope and excitement of the new year, only to find at the end of the new year, it was just like the end of the last year. It seems that it's just a cycle of the same thing over and over and over again. So, why don't things change in our lives? I would venture to say that one of the reasons things don't change is because you haven't changed. I want you to notice this in Nehemiah chapter 2 and verse number 17. It says, Then said I unto them, You see the distress that we are in, how Jerusalem lieth waste, and the gates thereof are burned with fire. Come and let us build up the wall of Jerusalem, that we be no more a reproach. As we have previously discussed, there was a disaster in Jerusalem. The walls and gates of the city were in disarray, but it was also a spiritual disaster, and no one was doing anything until Nehemiah comes and gives this motivational message to let's rebuild. Everybody's just sitting around crying about the problem, complaining about the problem. But constant crying and complaining about what's wrong does nothing to get you beyond what's wrong. So Nehemiah, after making his assessment, he says to them, You see the distress that we're in. I mean, you'd have to be blind at this time to not know the chaotic confusion that was going on in Jerusalem. And he says, You see it. And then he says, Come on, we got to do something about this. Again, in our lives, most of the times, things do not change because we have not changed. There are three things that we need to see. Number one, we need to see the distress. He says that very clearly. See the distress that we're in. Whatever needs to change in your life, you need to be able to see it. Number two, see the opportunity or see the potential. He says, Come on, let's do something about it. Let's rebuild. Let's restore. Do you recognize that in life, until we see our problems in a new perspective, as not a problem, but a potential opportunity for something bigger and something better? I want to challenge you that whatever is going on in your life that you're not happy about, your life, your health, your finances, your career, your family, whatever those things are, look at that distress and see the potential in making it better. And number three, you have to see your role and your responsibility in bringing about the change. Too often, and I can attest to this in pastoral counseling, people feel that their lives would be better if only someone else would make it better. If my spouse would act right, if my job would treat me right, if my coworkers, if my family, if my neighbors, if my preacher, if the elders, the deacons, the church folk, if the government, we give too much power to other people to make our lives better and don't take enough responsibility for our own existence sometimes. Now, if that's not you, awesome. But I can assure you that more people than not fall into that category. And they'll talk all day long in counseling about what somebody else needs to do to make their life better. And I'm here to challenge you the way Nehemiah challenged his audience, and that is, what are you going to do about it? See the distress, see the potential, and see your role and responsibility. Now, when you don't make plans, you get what you get. Think about just examples of not planning to do anything. People who do not plan for retirement find themselves struggling to make ends meet because they did not plan for their retirement. People who do not plan their shopping at the grocery stores find themselves buying excess because they did not write out a grocery list and plan what they were going to buy. People who don't plan vacations generally don't take vacations. People who do not plan their day usually end up with unfinished tasks and feelings of frustration about what did not get done. People who do not plan their events and social gatherings find that they tend to be unorganized. People who do not plan their travel well find that they have horrible trips because they didn't take the right route, or they didn't plan financially or do what was necessary for their trip to be better. As we talk in life about maximizing opportunities, when you don't plan, you minimize opportunities. So, how do we plan? Here are some keys to successful planning. Number one, what are you trying to accomplish? As we're on the brinks of a new year, this time next year, you can find yourself finding that 23 was a carbon copy of 22 if you're not in search of something. So, what are you planning? What are you trying to accomplish with your life, with your health, with your finances, with your career, with your family? Have something to look forward to. Life gets exciting when you are looking forward to something. Number two, when do you want to accomplish it? A part of good planning is not only knowing what you're trying to do, but to set yourself around a time frame. For example, as we talk about Meet Me in St. Louis, it is intentional that we share this information initially with you 8, 9 months out, so that we have time to plan it and have time to take steps and have time to be more strategic. So, when do you want to accomplish what you want to accomplish? And in your life, you should always think in terms of short term, mid term, and long term goals. Even if you are a senior citizen, still think long term. You never know how having goals might lengthen your life and better your health. Then think about number three, what steps need to be taken? Things won't happen by osmosis. It won't just happen automatically. What are you going to do? What are the steps that need to be taken? Number four, what resources do you have? I want you to think carefully about this question. What resources do you have? Because so many people are so busy looking at what they don't have that they often miss what they do have. And then last, what information do you need to learn? Fact gathering can save you a lot of headaches and it can save you a lot of money. We live in an age of information. Don't make bad choices because of bad or lack of even having information. As you plan, seek information so that you can work more effectively and more efficiently in your life. I want to ask you the same thought process that Nehemiah had. Do you see? Do you see the distress? Do you see the potential, the opportunity? And do you see your role and your responsibility? If you can see those things and act and plan accordingly, your next year can be a new year and a new you because you plan. And if you don't plan, always remember this: those who fail to plan, plan to fail. This has been another installment of A Few Minutes with the Minister. All right, family, on tonight we're going to take prayer requests. Our prayer warrior on tonight is Brother Ken Brown. We always say here, you win with Ken. Brother Ken, are you available?